I'm a Catholic at RMIT, and this is a talk about how to survive uni. So, in the talk of how to survive uni, we're gonna teach you a lot of skills that you might need to use during your studying, and this is one of the skills. I find sometime during study that you really need to remember something. There's no other way to do it. You just have to remember it, and this is how you're gonna do it using this program called Anki. And the program using space repetition, and that's it about Anki. Just remember stuff. Let's move on to the next. So what are we gonna talk about now? We're talking about space repetition. What is space repetition? You will see. Anki. What is the pros and cons? What are you required to use it? How to make a card, how to revise stuff, and the extra stuff. The extra stuff is the most important stuff. You will see. So what is space repetition? All these pictures, words, it's basically when you forget something or you're about to forget something, remind me it. Look at this. So after you learn something, you forget it. That's just it. It's just around 20% is still with you, or 20% retention. The rest is lost, and it's quite quickly after like 1 or 2 days. Now, how do you make it? How do you increase your retention more efficiently? We call that space repetition. When it gets to around, I would say 80%, remind me it. Now, every time it gets to 80%, remind me again. Every time you get to it, remind me again. So notice that the amount of time that you need to be reminded of a card get longer. So the first time it might take 1 day, the second time is 3 days, third time is 5 days, and every time that the reason why you need to be reminded less is because you retain more, you retain better. Look at this. This is how low. This is around 20% retention. This is just one time reminded, it jumps up to around 50%. The second time, it jumps a bit more. You might never get 100% retention, but you don't need. You just need to be around here during exam. That's it, and I'll make sure about that. So it is great and all, but this is one card. How do you make sure that you remember when to remind yourself the card? Like imagine in front of you is 100 flashcard. No, not 100. 1,000 flashcard that you make to remember stuff. Now, pick up the first one. Do you remember this card? If you don't, when should you recall it? Like, where is it in this curve? When should you revise yourself that? There's a stack of, you can't do 1,000 cards every day. You need to chunk it out. But what if you miss some card that day? Anki, this is where Anki come into place. It's space repetition managing program. So it's manage it. You don't need to do it yourself. It manages it for you. Yeah. Every day you wake up, it gives you a bunch of cards. Revise these cards. You finish it. That's it for the day. That's all you need to do. Now, you can download it on PC, on Android, on an Apple phone, iPhone. You will need to pay for it. not on a Mac, just on iPhone, because they need to use it to pay for stuff, and for some reason they choose Apple people to do it. It's commonly used with the medical student communities and language learning. Like you know, language learning involve a lot of remember tiny chunks of information, but a lot of it. There's a lot of words, but each word is quite easy to remember. They managed to do it, and they use this program and medical student. Oh, I don't need to tell you anything more. Let's move on to the next part. Oh, and this is Anki. This is the icon. This is the icon on Android. This is the icon on the PC. This is what you see when you open up Anki. Okay, next part. Why do you use Anki? Well, it's extremely good. Extremely, I say. Really good at making you remember the card. My god, it was so sufficient. One time I forgot to study, I had to admit. Um, there was a lecture slide and all was that, but I haven't remembered that before. I sat down, I took 2 hours of like taking down notes from the video that they provided to me, and I put it on Anki and I started revising. All of that process took 2 hours, and I remember everything. Given that is not how you should use Anki, but the initial learning part, Anki is really good. So what I'm trying to say here is from here to here, Anki put in 2 hours. That is how powerful it is. Efficient revision. It took me around 2 hours every day. Not 2 hours, yeah, around 2 hours every day to revise around 100 cards of 1,000 card deck. Yeah, I don't have time to look at 1,000 word deck card, and I don't need to sum the deck card I already remember at that point, and I don't need to remind myself. Anki, pick out the card that you really need to remember, and that's all you need to remember. It's really efficient. It has excellent visualizing tool. Look at these stats. I'll talk more about this. But these are the most important part of Anki. Drawback. I would have to admit, making this card is freaking time consuming and hard. My god, I hate them. I hate the card making process, but you have to learn it. It is not hard to make a card. It's hard to make a good card. The learning curve of Anki is quite high as well, because it's so flexible on allowing you to make a card and manage it. It is quite hard to get on, but you'll learn it. I learned how to use it in like 2 months or about a month, not 2 months. I start to learn how to be good at it at around 2 months. What do you need? Well, you need to manage your information. These are more advanced stuff at Anki. I won't get into this at this point, but it requires a lot of stuff to be good at using Anki and helpful in remembering cards. At this point, you don't need to know it. I'll talk about a bit about it though. So for information management skill, you need to chop up your information as small as possible and put in a card so that it's as easy as possible to recall that card. And the card making skill, I'll talk about it later. But like I said, to make a good card is hard. To make a card is easy. This is how you make a card. So before that, when you open ARM key, this is what you see. There's a button right here that says add. Just click on that and it will bring you to here. Let's zoom in. There's a front, there's a back. You don't really need to remember all this right now, but to make a card, put something in the front that is the question in the front, something in the back, your answers in the back, put some tags on, optional but highly recommended because this is how you will find the card and group related information. It's more advanced stuff, but it's just a way for you to manage your information. At this point, you don't really need to do it. It's fine. And click add. That's it. Revision. After you make the cards, it's now the time to revise it, and this is the best time to use. This is this is all the build up for. It is really good. It is really fast and efficient, and I love this process. So look at this. So when you open the ARM key, this is what you're gonna see. New card, do card, empty column is learning card. What does these mean? Now let's get back to this. So new card is card here. It's the card that is in here. You haven't learned it? You haven't seen it? You just made it. So it's in here. There's no retention. Do card is the card that's in here. In here. And yeah, this is what the do cards are. That you have forgotten much of it, and now you need to be reminded. And learning the empty column, it's in here. When you forget something, yeah. Now the best part about Anki is Anki don't remind you cards in these sections. There's a lot of cards in these sections. It will not remind you those cards, just for time saving. You will be reminded of this card to bring it here. That's it. When a card reaches learning stage, it's in here. So that's what the card is about. So new card, do card, learning card. Now, you see this? There's some new card that you need to do. You click on this Anki presentation. Surprise, surprise. I have made an Anki deck for you. So you don't need to make it yet. Revision. When you click at that, it will bring you to this side here. Yeah, you'll get here. And that's it. You see the prompt, recall it to yourself. If you remember it, click good. If you don't, click again. That's it. Move on to the next card. Repeat that until there's no more cards for you to do. Anki know which card to show you. You don't even need to think about it. That's how powerful that is. I have nothing else to say. Just that. Now the extra stuff. If Anki can just manage that, it won't be the best for remembering stuff. It's this thing. It visualizes for you. you can give this to your parent and tell them I have studied. Have you ever found a difficulty on convincing your parent that you try to study a lot, but they just, like when you're playing on your computers, your parent tell you, why you keep why do I never see you studying it at all? Why you keep playing on that computer? Have you studied? You can show them this. Look, Ma, look at this. Look how many green there is here. I've studied a lot. I've studied a lot of card here. Look at this. Look how high these columns are. Let's see how. Imagine that your parents is in front of you. Look at this. Look at this blue card. These are the new cards I've learned today. These are the new information that I've just learned. Look at all these green information. I already remember this information. Look at this. The red part, put to the side. You don't want to talk to your parent about this. Tell the parent what the red card is. But let's move on to the next part. So in the card type, these are each deck there will be a card called there will be a pie chart called card type. What does card type stand for? The amount of card in. So you don't really need to know what these color means. Well, you do, but greens mean good. That means you can. If someone asks you about it, you can recall. Black and blue is not. Black and blue is a card in the learning phase, in the new phase, or learning phase. Basically, if your teacher asks you it, you might not recall it. And yellow, you don't need to recall it. You already passed that subject, or it's something in the past now, or you can just learn by doing it. It's in that stage of not needing to be recalled. When you look at a pie chart, you want to see a lot of these and none of these, especially near final exam, near finals. If you see in finals, I want to see everything in green unless there's some yellow in there, because you don't need to remember anymore. But the more green the better. If this is what I'm gonna see during final, I'm gonna rack up one day before final. I'll have to rack up my studying, because look at how many black there is. The forecast just shows you how many cards you need to remember that day. Not much. Now, like I said, the number of blue cards is the card that you just learned today. That also means that the amount of card that will be reminded for you later that day. At the next day, green cards is the card that you already remember, that they gave you as revision, and you remember it. The red card is the one that you want to see. It's the card that went on to remind you, but you already forgot it. It will have to remind you that later. That is a card that you don't remember what it is anymore. It's the one that you don't want to see. Usually when I see a card that I cannot remember, it's because I missed a couple of days before. This empty column, yeah, the empty column. It means you missed that day. You don't want to see a lot of these. And in my experience, the bigger this part is, empty column, the shorter the green card, the green column, and the longer the red card. I've missed a couple of days once, and after I returned, half of the misread. I forgot half of the information. That means you have to repeat this step again. And that's the end of my presentation. If you want to know more about Anki, head on to Reddit and type Anki. Medical school Anki is the communities of medical students who use Anki. There's more medical students who use Anki than the Anki community. I don't know why. It's just like that. This is the website that you use to download it, or just Google Anki and it will bring you there. You don't need to remember it. Thank you.